I will just say, as an immigrant, on a personal note, when we arrived in the US in 1995, it took my dad about 2 weeks to find employment. He worked at the airport and then became a cab driver. We moved to Minnesota. He worked for the post office until he retired in 2010. I was expected to find a job to help support the family. So were all of my 6 siblings. All of us have been gainfully employed since we were 16 in this country. The idea that immigrants do not come to this country desperately searching to reach that American dream is ridiculous, and it's something that I find abhorrent that is constantly discussed as we come to this country to just be on public benefits when we desperately want to be as equal as every other person and be gainfully employed and live the American dream. Let's keep clarifying some points to better understand the true impacts of our immigration policies. Mr. Pierre, how has the restriction of legal pathways significantly increased reliance on asylum?
Well, look, I mentioned 3% of the people who are going through the green card process get a green card each year. So that right there tells you we're about 97% closed. People don't look at this as an option. People are going to die in these backlogs before they get green cards. And so, yeah, they look at it and they say, there's no way. This is not an option for me. And so they come to the border and they tell us that that's why they're coming. There's no visa category available to the people who are showing up at our southwest border.
Thank you for that clarity. Can you confirm that immigration policies that facilitate legal entry have reduced illegal entries? Yes or no?
Absolutely. The parole sponsorship programs that the administration rolled out have dramatically reduced the number of encounters of Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans. Even Venezuelans are down compared to what they were before these programs were announced.
Mm-hmm. And our Republican friends always say people can come here legally. Could you walk us through this Cato chart outlining the mess that our legal immigration system is?
Yeah, this is why 97% of the people who go through the process get excluded, because there are all these different restrictions in place. And you go through each one. There are multiple different categories here, obviously. Refugee program, you got one out of 100 million displaced people worldwide getting in. You have the diversity lottery. Again, it's a 0.2% chance of getting in through that. Family sponsorship, 9 million person backlog there. Again, you're going to die before you see a green card through that process. So you go through each one of these things, and you can see how restrictive it is. Ultimately, you end up in the employer-sponsored categories, and even those, the ones that are supposed to be for skilled and all about our economy and everything, even those are incredibly backlogged. Over 2 million people waiting for the opportunity to immigrate legally through those.
Yeah. And finally, in terms of real costs that we should be talking about, isn't it true that immigrants generally contribute more in taxes than they consume in public benefits?
That's right. Our report looks at all taxes and all benefits of all categories. We look at the entire budget for state, federal, and local governments, and we find $1 trillion in tax payments versus just $700 billion in benefits, $300 billion net gain from immigration.
And Mr. Pierre, is it fair to say that our debate around immigration often overlooks the actual facts and data needed to craft sensible policies?
Yeah, I think if we started with the premise that these people could be contributors, then we would ultimately craft a much more rational immigration policy than we have right now.
Maybe it's about something else entirely. I won't speculate on what that something else could be, but I hope that some of my colleagues will reflect on why the idea of immigration or the changing face of our country seems to unsettle them. We know that there are undeniable benefits to immigration. The real costs are rooted in poor policy decisions. Our restrictive and failed immigration policies are costing us not just economically and fiscally, but also harming global standing and dividing our communities. With something as complex as immigration, this discussion merits thoughtful consideration and not whatever this hearing is about.